When the world trembles, when the nations roar, when the straits that carry the oil of the earth run dry, the hearts of men fail them for fear. But hear me now. What the world calls panic, heaven calls a wake-up call. The shaking is not to destroy you, but to awaken you. For when the strait is shut, the way must open within you. When Iran shuts the Strait of Hormuz, it is more than a headline. It is a sign in the midst of a world that slumbers in its illusion of control. This narrow passage, barely 21 miles wide at its narrowest point, carries almost a third of the world's seaborne oil. Imagine it. One thin vein carrying the lifeblood of entire economies, feeding the engines of cities, the warmth of homes, the lights that blaze through the night. And in a moment, that lifeline is severed. The tankers halt. The markets quake. Leaders gather in hurried whispers behind closed doors. The news channels light up in red, and a tide of fear surges through the veins of humanity. It feels as if the heart of the world misses a beat. And in that pause, everything is laid bare. Yet this is no random event. When the world trembles, when the straits run dry, it is as if heaven itself allows a shaking to reveal what we have trusted in. We call ourselves advanced, secured, prepared. We have built vast systems of trade, pipelines that snake through deserts and seas, ships that carry the wealth of nations from shore to shore. We convince ourselves that we have mastered the tides and the winds and the straits. But the truth is, with all our power, we are one spark away from chaos. One gate closed, one passage blocked, and our towers of glass and steel shake on foundations that were never as strong as we imagined. Do you see it? The shutting of the strait is not only about oil, it is a mirror held up to our souls. It is a trumpet sounding in the night, calling us to wake up and ask, where have I built my trust? If your security is in the flow of oil through a narrow waterway, or the digits in a bank account, or the promises of governments and leaders, then your foundation is as fragile as that strait. But there is another way, a way that does not close when men raise barriers, a source that does not dry up when the wells run empty. Think of the people of Israel at the Red Sea. Trapped between an impassable sea and an army bent on their destruction, they too saw the strait ahead of them, shut. There was no way forward, no way back. Panic could have swallowed them whole. But in that moment of shaking, when the waters blocked their path, heaven opened a new way. The sea split, the impossible became possible, and a path was carved through the depths. So it is with us now. The closing of the Strait of Hormuz may expose the fragile veins that carry our earthly supply, but it can also remind us that the true source is the one who parts seas, breaks chains, and makes a way where there is no way. When the world trembles, it is not to destroy you, it is to awaken you. Let this shaking be your wake-up call to build your life on the rock that no strait can close and no army can besiege. Let it move you from fear to faith, from panic to purpose. For when the strait is shut, the way must open within you. One narrow passage closes, and suddenly the world stands exposed, stripped of its comforting illusions. This is the second truth the shaking reveals. The illusion of control was always just that, an illusion. We build our kingdoms of oil and pipelines. We craft systems so complex that we convince ourselves they can never fail. We anchor our hope in markets and leaders and trade routes, yet one blockade, one conflict, one closed strait, and the house of cards begins to quiver. It is in this moment, when the lifeline is severed, that we see how fragile our sense of mastery really is. For years, people have looked to the Strait of Hormuz like it was an unbreakable link, a guarantee that the oil will flow, the trucks will run, the lights will stay on. Generations have grown up believing that if we are clever enough, advanced enough, rich enough, we can weather any storm. But the shaking strips the mask off that lie. The truth is, we are never as secure as we pretend to be. Not when our trust is rooted in the shifting sands of this world. We might control pipelines, but we cannot control hearts. We might build ships, but we cannot still the winds. We might govern straits, but we do not govern the tides of history. In an instant, the door slams shut, and our hands, so full of plans and pride, are left empty. Think of the Tower of Babel, a people so confident in their ingenuity they believed they could reach heaven with bricks and mortar. They built upward, higher and higher, until their illusion of control was scattered with a single breath from above. Confusion descended, and what was once a monument to man's pride became a ruin testifying to our limits. Like the Strait of Hormuz today, that tower reminds us that human control is always conditional, always vulnerable to the greater tides that move unseen. But there is hope in this revelation, because when the illusion of control shatters, the truth has space to enter. We begin to remember that our true provision was never the oil under our feet, but the one who laid the foundations of the deep. Our true security was never in leaders who rise and fall, but in the one whose throne is unshakable. If a single strait can cause markets to plummet, then surely it is foolish to root our hope in what a ship or a sanction can block. We must learn to lift our eyes beyond the visible supply lines of this earth and look to the well that never runs dry. Imagine a farmer whose well dries up in a drought. He could curse the skies, shake his fists at the sun, or he could pick up his shovel and dig deeper, pressing through the dry layers until he strikes an underground stream no drought can touch. So it must be for us now. The closing of the Strait of Hormuz is our drought, our exposed well. But it can also be our invitation to dig deeper, to find the source that no blockade can stop, no enemy can seize. May the shaking open your eyes to see that your real provision was never in the strait. It was always in the source above the storm. Fear will knock on your door. It always does when the foundations shake and the illusions shatter. And in this hour, when the Strait of Hormuz is shut and the world gasps for answers, that fear multiplies like a plague. But in this moment, you are given a choice. Will you open the door and let fear sit at your table, feed it, let it grow until it devours you from the inside out? Or will you stand, breathe deep, and let faith answer that knock instead? For every shaking brings with it a crossroads, panic or purpose, and only you can decide which road you will walk. It is so easy to join the chorus of panic. The news flashes its banners of dread. Experts argue over worst-case scenarios. People hoard what they can grasp. Fear is contagious, more contagious than any virus, because it feeds on the deepest part of our humanity that craves control. And when the illusion of control shatters, fear is the first to crawl in through the cracks. But hear this truth. Panic has never solved a crisis. It blinds the eyes, deafens the ears, and paralyzes the heart that was made to stand. In the trembling, you must remember, crisis does not come to end you. It comes to reveal you and to call something greater out of you. Think of the disciples in the boat, caught in a sudden storm on the Sea of Galilee. The winds roared, the waves crashed over the sides, and in that darkness, panic took hold. They were seasoned fishermen, but all their skill, all their knowledge of these waters failed them when the winds refused to obey their commands. Fear became their master until they remembered the one sleeping in the stern. With a word, he stood and spoke, "Peace, be still." And the storm obeyed. In that moment, they saw that the real danger was not the storm outside the boat, but the storm inside their hearts. So it is with us now. The strait is closed. The markets shake, the fear storm rages, but you do not have to be ruled by it. You can choose purpose. You can choose to rise in the middle of the chaos, to be a voice that calms instead of a mouth that spreads dread. You can sow hope while others hoard despair. You can be the steady hands that reach for the fearful, the weary, the lost. Every crisis carries a calling. And this one is no different. It asks you, what will you do with what has been shaken? Will you crumble, or will you build something that cannot be moved? A seed breaks its shell in the dark earth. Only through breaking does it grow roots and reach the light. Likewise, let this shaking break you free from small thinking, selfish hoarding, aimless fear. Let it push you deeper into courage, into compassion, into faith that stands when the winds howl. The world may panic, but you are not called to mirror the world. You are called to show it another way. Let fear knock all it wants. May your faith be the one to answer the door. When the straits shuts, when the lifelines are severed, and when panic rattles the bones of nations, there comes a moment when each one of us must stand before the mirror. The shaking is not only around us, it is within us. Crisis is a revealer. It strips away the layers we have so carefully wrapped around our lives, and it shows us what we are really made of. The storm outside the boat is never as dangerous as the cracks hidden beneath our decks. And so this shaking is not your enemy. It is a mirror held up to your soul. We spend so much of our lives patching the outside, making the surface look strong, polished, impenetrable. But the truth is, no ship sinks because of the waves around it, only when the water gets inside. So what has the panic of this moment revealed in you? Have you found that your trust was never as deep as your words? Have you seen fear you didn't know you carried? Have you realized how tightly you clutch the things you once thought you could not live without? These revelations can feel brutal, but they are a gift if you are willing to see them for what they are, the starting point of real, unshakable strength. Think of an old bridge spanning a great river. When an earthquake hits, the bridge groans and cracks form in its pillars. To the naked eye, the bridge always seems sturdy, but the shaking exposes its hidden weaknesses, places where rust ate through steel, where the concrete was poured too thin, where the foundations were laid on shifting ground. No one celebrates the cracks, but without the quake, the flaws would remain unseen, waiting to collapse under a greater weight someday. So the cracks are not the enemy. They are the chance to rebuild, stronger, deeper, wiser than before. In the same way, this moment of global trembling is showing you where your foundation needs repair. Do not run from what you see. Do not cover it up and pretend it isn't there. Take the fear, the doubt, the hidden pride, the fragile dependencies, and bring them into the light. Fill the cracks with truth. Strengthen the beams with trust that does not rest on oil or leaders or economies, but on the one who commands the winds and the seas. When you do this, the next storm will not break you. It will prove you. It is far too easy to waste a shaking, to patch the cracks quickly, to numb the discomfort, to rush back to normal. But what if normal was never strong enough to carry you through the storms to come? What if this is your moment to build an unshakable core, so that when the world trembles again, and it will, you stand unmovable, a lighthouse rising above the waves? So look into the mirror that this crisis holds before you. Do not fear what you see. Let it be your invitation to rebuild, to root deeper, to stand taller, and remember, a life built on truth will not fall no matter how fierce the shaking. The Strait of Hormuz may close, but the way within you must remain open, strong enough to weather any storm, unshakable enough to shine when all else crumbles, and unshakable enough to shine when all else crumbles. Let the world panic, but you rise up. Let the nations roar, but you stand firm. For the shaking will come, but it will not break you, it will awaken you. And when the Strait of Hormuz is shut, may it remind you the way of hope, the way of faith, the way of truth is never shut. Be strong, be bold, be unshakable.